Next on Unsolved Mysteries. A teenager dies and her family still doesn't know if it was a drug overdose or if she was murdered. Is this video evidence of a close encounter with a UFO, or is it just a clever hoax? An illicit romance and a family secret may solve the mystery of a man's death and a woman's disappearance. And the clerk at a convenience store is shot to death in the back room. The gunman is still at large. Sound intriguing? You bet they are. So stick around. These are unusual cases that you won't want to miss. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. Carson City, Nevada. Sandra Jennings receives an urgent call from her brother, Clarence.
Hi, Clarence.
Clarence is trying to locate his 16-year-old daughter, Natasha, who is visiting from California.
Natasha?
I had called home. My sister answered the phone. I asked her if Tosh was home. She set the phone down. She peeked out the back door. She didn't see her, so she went upstairs.
Oh, my God! Natasha!
That's when I heard her scream.
Clarence, I found Natasha. She's on the floor. She's not breathing.
I told her, well, hang up right now, call 911. I'm on my way.
I'll call.
Natasha Jennings was already dead when the paramedics arrived. Ultimately, 3 theories about the cause of her death would emerge: drug abuse, sexual assault, and foul play. But to this day, how Natasha Jennings died remains a mystery. When Natasha Jennings was very young, her parents divorced. Natasha lived with her mother in Southern California. But by the time she was 16, Natasha wanted to reconnect with her father, Clarence. She had hoped an extended visit to his home in Nevada would bridge the years of separation.
I told her no at first. But then I didn't want to put her in the middle of, our disagreements. What I feel towards her father is my own business, and it doesn't involve her. That is her father.
Sandra, Natasha's aunt, was the last person to see Natasha alive. They ate lunch together at around 1 o'clock. Later that afternoon, Clarence placed several calls to his daughter.
Hey, Tosh, it's me, Dad. Still trying to find you.
He became more and more worried when he couldn't reach her. When police arrived at the scene, they found Natasha as her aunt had found her, slumped across the bedroom floor. Her hair was damp as if she had taken a shower, and an electric fan lay on top of her.
Anytime you have a young individual that's deceased for no specific apparent cause or reason, it's suspicious. It's treated as a homicide until such time as we can shift gears and say that it's something else.
There were no signs of trauma. Still, investigators turned their attention to a young man Natasha had become close to. We'll call him Chris. Allegations had been raised that Chris sexually assaulted her just days before. The investigation revealed that Natasha and Chris went to a party together a few nights before she died. Those who had been drinking were invited to wait until morning to drive home. No one saw what Natasha and Chris did the rest of the night.
Good morning.
Good morning. Take care. Okay.
According to INGRID COTAR, a friend in California, a confused and traumatized Natasha called the following morning to tell her something had happened after the party.
Tosh, what's up?
Natasha told me she had blacked out. from she was drinking and she had blacked out, and that Chris had raped her.
Do you know where Natasha lives?
I don't remember.
Chris was interrogated, but detectives concluded that whatever happened between him and Natasha could not be considered criminal.
The autopsy report was conclusive that she was not sexually assaulted.
As soon as Natasha's mother learned about her daughter's death, she rushed to Carson City.
And I spoke with everybody that she was around. I went to places that she had been. I handed out flyers, thousands upon thousands upon thousands.
And then one day, a woman approached her at a shopping center with some new information.
I was at the shopping center passing out flyers when a woman approached me.
What is it?
And
What do you know?
she was very scared.
But please help me. Anything that you know.
She was very skittish and watching over her shoulder, and she says, I know what happened to your daughter. She wrote her telephone number down, and she goes, here, she goes, call me.
The woman claimed that Natasha's father, Clarence, was a drug informant for local law enforcement. She said his cover had been blown and that drug dealers killed Natasha in retaliation.
My ex-wife had asked me, is there any possibility that they might have had something to do with it in retaliation for my being an informant for the police department? And my jaw dropped. I've never been an informant for the police department.
Natasha's relatives confronted one of the Carson City detectives assigned to Natasha's case.
And we asked him if he was aware that Clarence was, or Natasha's father was an informant, and he didn't deny it at all. He said yes. He was aware of it.
I can say, based upon our records, Clarence Jennings was not, nor was he ever a documented informant for either agency.
How long have you known Natasha Jennings?
But soon, another theory emerged.
Do you ever see Natasha use any kind of drugs?
No, Tosh would never use drugs.
Investigators thought that Natasha might have overdosed on drugs. A scrap of plastic recovered on a landing outside Natasha's bedroom contained traces of speed and cocaine. And there was a small amount of the drugs in her nose.
The cocaine and methamphetamine can lead to increased body temperature, hyperthermia. I think she probably took a bath to cool down, and she was then in the process of drying her hair when she collapsed, most likely a spasm.
They said she was on a 5-day drug and drink and sex party. And I was like, No, I know my daughter. She wouldn't have used.
During the autopsy, the medical examiner found no drug residue in Natasha's system.
If you snort cocaine on Monday and you're deceased on Friday, and we do a toxicology, we may find remnants of the drug, perhaps in your nose or maybe in an injection point or something like that. But the actual toxicology of your blood and urine and whatnot may produce a zero amount.
Today, the investigation has hit a dead end.
All I wanted was answers. For somebody to talk to me and explain to me what's been going on with her. But nobody will. Nobody has.
The unfortunate part is, I don't have an answer for the mother. This girl was 16 years old. She had her entire life ahead of her. And we don't have any answers. We don't have the bottom line.
I didn't want her to go. And I was kind of mad at myself because I had felt it and didn't take heed to those emotions. I had actually sent her a note telling her that I wanted her to come home. She didn't make it back.
Officially, the investigation into the death of Natasha Jennings is still open. If you have any information, please contact us at unsolved.com. Next, some experts claim that this is a videotape of a UFO. Skeptics are not convinced. If you saw a UFO, you might worry that you were going crazy. But what if someone then showed you a videotape of exactly what you had seen? Well, it might just convince you that you weren't going crazy after all. West Carleton, Ontario, Canada. It was around 10 p.m. Diane LABENEK had just put her children to bed, and her husband was out running an errand when the dogs began to howl.
I walked right to the window and I saw flames right on the back of the field. Extremely red flames and lots of smoke. It didn't look like a fire. I know what a fire looks like when you start a fire out there, and the grass was very dry, so if you start a fire, you will see it moving, whether this way or closer to the woods, and the fire was standing on one spot only. I saw a ship coming down close to the flames. Right on top of the ship, I saw a blue flashing light, and another light was on the bottom, very bright. I didn't know what to do. I was looking at it about 10 minutes or so. And then the ship went a little bit back over the trees, and it disappeared. I saw all the flames turn out at the same time. I don't think I'd like to see it again. It's very scary. I've lived here for many, many years, and I have never been so scared in my life. It did enter my mind to phone the police. When this was all over, I came to the telephone, but I said, what am I going to tell them? I'm going to tell them I have seen flares out there at 10 o'clock or past 10 o'clock at night, and there was a ship up there. Who is going to say, okay, Diane, that's fine, we're coming over? So that's why I didn't call.
According to Diane, 10 minutes after the lights abruptly blinked out, a helicopter appeared. It flew low to the ground over the field where Diane had seen the unexplained lights. After crisscrossing the area, it passed over Diane's house and disappeared into the night. The next morning, Diane explored the empty fields around her house, searching for evidence of the previous night's events.
I searched everything. There was no marks, there was no spots, there was no matches, there was just nothing. The only person I told is my mom and my husband. It kind of bothered me inside for a long, long time, not to come up forward and say it to anybody. But when I went out on the field and I could not find anything, who is going to believe me that this really happened? So I kept it to myself.
6 months after Diane's encounter, a package from Canada arrived at the office of Bob EYEWITNESS, one of the foremost UFO researchers at the time these incidents were reported. The package had no return address. Inside were secret military documents, pictures, a map, and a videotape of the incident at West Carleton.
On the label was the name Guardian, and it was accompanied by a fingerprint. Guardian, to me, was an enigma, certainly nothing I had heard about in the UFO literature, so it was a mystery starting from scratch.
At the time, EYEWITNESS was unaware of Diane's sighting, but he would later find that the videotape accurately showed what she had reported seeing. The tape showed a cluster of brightly burning red flames similar to flares. To their right hovered a dark disc-like object emitting a bright glow from its underside. The object was capped by a rapidly strobing blue light.
I got a sense initially that this was a real event occurring in a field as opposed to some prop set up in a room somewhere. I kind of had a sense I might be dealing with something that was potentially authentic here.
The map that was included in the package directed EYEWITNESS to West Carleton, Ontario. He went there with UFO researcher Graham Lightfoot.
exactly what you saw that night?
When they interviewed Diane, she described exactly what was in the Guardian videotape.
Yes, I've seen a bright light.
She had not seen a tape. She had no idea what we knew. And yet she was able to describe things that we already knew from the tape.
It's one of the clearest videos I've seen that show a structured object.
Dr. Bruce MACCABEE, a U.S. Navy physicist and photo analyst, has studied UFOs for years.
And here's the beacon light, the blue light evidently, a reflection down here on the body of the craft, the outline of the object itself that you can see, some sort of dark lines that appear, some brightness structure indicating something generating light is hanging down below the object. It's generating green light as well as blue light. Probably there is other structure in here, which, however, the glare from this bright light is blurring out.
Dr. MACCABEE believes that the tape is not a fraud.
The section of the video which shows the object just sort of appearing over a rise is quite convincing to me. Would be what you would expect if somebody were in the field trying to get closer to it and not knowing how close he could get. And so he turns on his camera while he's walking. He knows he's going to come up over a rise and see it, and you can see in the video farther and farther down until you see the whole device. Suddenly the light coming towards him gets brighter and brighter. You get a great big diffuse reflection or image in the camera, which suggests to me that this object shined a blue beam right at him.
Dr. MACCABEE estimates the object to be 20 to 30 feet in diameter, too big to be a hoax.
It appeared to be so large that it would not be logical to try to set all this up at night under darkness. There would have been evidence during the day of movement, of generators, of somebody hauling cables, maybe a big apparatus or something that they would have had to bring in there for that night. Clearly, if there was a hoax involved, Diane would have seen evidence of it in advance.
Audio analysis of the tape revealed only the distant barking of dogs, probably Diane's. The craft itself seemed to be silent. There was no audible trace of power generators, which, if the object was staged, would be necessary to run its massive lights. Dr. Robert Nathan of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory reviewed the tape in a non-official capacity. He could not explain the images or dismiss the tape as a hoax. After the incident, low-flying helicopters cruised over West Carrollton on a regular basis. The helicopters were black, green, or maroon in color. They were unmarked and had darkly tinted windows. The Canadian military denies any involvement. Where the helicopters came from or what they were searching for remains a mystery.
The helicopters that are used in this area of Canada do not fly low in that area. There are no requirements for our military helicopters to go and fly near private citizens' property like that.
The key to the entire incident lies with the person using the name Guardian.
I think Guardian has to be connected to the event in some way. I don't see any way Guardian could have just happened onto this. I don't see Guardian as a UFO investigator. Guardian is much more involved in this than the evidence even suggests, in my opinion.
But supposed military documents that arrived with the videotape raise serious questions about Guardian's credibility. The papers allege far-reaching conspiracies involving UFOs, Red China, and nuclear weapons.
There was some question immediately with regard to the authenticity of the documentation. It didn't look like it was a typical government document, even Canadian government documents, of which I had no familiarity at the time.
This document is clearly a fabrication. There are way too many errors in the document to make it authentic. Someone with very little effort could have come a lot closer than this.
Included on the videotape are images which Guardian claimed show an alien being.
Clearly, this could have been someone dressed up in a costume, but that posed a major question. If, in fact, the video images of the disc were authentic, why would anyone contaminate such an extraordinary event with fake images of alien creatures?
Although the video arrived with questionable material, many experts believe that the events shown on the tape did indeed take place. What really happened in the fields of West Carleton? Well, only Guardian can answer that question.
This is either an extraordinary, top-secret flying vehicle of somebody's government, or it is of a non-human origin. Having no contact with Guardian is probably the biggest frustration to an investigation like this. We don't know who Guardian is, what Guardian represents. We don't know if Guardian was sent or went on his own. We have no idea what the solutions to many of these mysteries are going to be. We may never know.
If you are Guardian, or if you have any information about who he or she might be, please contact us at unsolved.com. Next, the story of two lovers whose secret romance ended in murder. Farina Beach, Louisiana. On a cold November morning in 1956, a hunter and his son make a grisly discovery. A man lies in the front seat of a car, dead from a single gunshot. The victim is identified as Thomas Hotard, a 46-year-old engineer from nearby LaPlace. Authorities will later determine that a woman had been with him, 31-year-old Audrey Moat, a divorced mother of 3. Audrey was nowhere to be found.
3 months before this happened, my mother told my grandmother that if anything happens to me, take the kids and get as far away from here as possible. Why would a 31-year-old woman in 1956 in a environmentally crime-free area say that?
When it made the headlines, the case of Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moat became one of the most sensational stories in the country. But the Louisiana swamps won't give up their secret. Even today, nobody knows what really happened. The newspaper obituaries in 1956 described Thomas Hotard as a hard-working family man, active in the church and with the Boy Scouts. He worked for a local chemical company, and it was there that he met Audrey Moat. Audrey was a recently divorced mother, 15 years younger than Thomas. In addition to their work, the two shared an interest in scouting and were often seen together in town organizing their troops' activities.
My mother was a woman that was way ahead of her time. She was a single parent in '56, and she was the kind of woman that was very loving, very giving. Perhaps she was the best friend I ever had.
Thomas was married, but he and Audrey fell in love. Their risky affair was a dark secret. Audrey told her family that she had to work every Saturday, but it was a lie. For 2 years, Thomas told his wife that he too was working on Saturdays. Neither family knew that Thomas and Audrey spent these stolen days together.
Took me forever to get the baby to sleep.
We used to go on picnics together. He taught me how to develop film, was there on my birthdays. I thought they were friends. I didn't realize they were lovers. I found out later when I read the newspaper accounts, but I just thought they were friends.
On Saturday, November 25th, Thomas and Audrey met in LaPlace around 7:30 a.m. They then drove to the edge of Lake Pontchartrain. Ironically, that Saturday was Audrey's birthday, a special day that would end in tragedy. Police estimated by morning's end Thomas Hotard had been shot to death and Audrey Moat had vanished forever. When the hunter made his grim discovery that next morning, he went straight to Sheriff Percy Hebert, who was the first to arrive at the scene. Thomas had been killed by a single shot from a 16-gauge shotgun fired at point-blank range through the side window. Once Sheriff Hebert began to investigate the crime scene, he made some unusual discoveries. Scattered on the ground were the partial contents of a woman's purse. They were later identified as Audrey's. Inside the car, Sheriff Hebert found the car keys still in the ignition and women's clothes crumpled on the floor.
From the articles of clothing that were found in the car, the only thing she could have been wearing was a bra and a slip. Her sweater, her underwear, her stockings, her shoes, skirt, all of that was in the car. The car had the bed made down in it. In other words, it was one of those old Nashes that had a bed that could be folded down. The evidence indicates that they were probably in the act of making love when the murder occurred.
It looked like Audrey had tried to escape, spilling the contents of her purse in the process. 50 yards from Hotard's car, Hebert found footprints made by small, bare feet. Just behind them was the print of a man's heavy boot. 5 feet away, it appeared a scuffle had taken place and a set of car keys was discovered. That evening, Sheriff Hebert located Audrey's car parked next to the cafe where she had met Hotard. The keys found at the crime scene fit the ignition.
Everybody was buzzing, was talking about it. They all had their own theory of what happened. They all had idea of who could have committed the murder. They all had an idea of where Audrey Moat was, and they all wanted to help the sheriff because they saw a woman answering that description going door to door, and all kinds of confusion. Believe me, confusion reigned supreme about that time.
2 weeks after her disappearance, Audrey's former mother-in-law received a strange phone call.
Hello?
Mom?
Audrey?
Mom, I'm in trouble.
Audrey, is that you?
I need help.
Audrey? Audrey? Audrey?
Then, a waitress in New Orleans reported that she had seen Audrey in her restaurant around the same time that Mrs. Moat received the phone call.
Was there anything else, hon?
No.
The waitress said that she recognized Audrey from seeing her picture in the paper. Audrey appeared to be very tired, and she left the restaurant when she realized that the waitress was watching her. This was the last reported sighting of Audrey Moat. Next, a surprising deathbed confession reveals the details of what happened to Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moat. In 1956, 2 hunters stumbled upon a gruesome crime scene in an isolated area of Louisiana. Thomas Hotard had been killed by a gunshot blast. His lover, Audrey Moat, was nowhere to be found. Investigators had no leads, and the case went cold. As the years went by, this sensational story slipped from the headlines. And then more than 20 years later, a dying man told his family that he knew what happened to Audrey and Thomas. The question remains, was he telling the truth?
You remember that Hotard fellow what got killed in the swamp? But ain't nothing in that swamp goes on, but I don't know.
Just months before he died, Ernest Acosta, claimed that his common-law wife, Caroline Schlescher, murdered Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moat. He said that he knew this because he helped dispose of Audrey's body. Caroline died in 1979.
And it was Caroline what shot both those two.
Ernest and Caroline lived less than a mile from the murder site. Acosta was known to sit in his front yard and take pot shots at anyone who came close to his house.
My father was a very mean person. He would grab the gun, show it to you, and then tell you what the hell you want. And then if he didn't like what you wanted or what you said, he would tell you, hit the road, Jack. Caroline was in the same manner. She slept with a gun underneath her pillow at all times.
Ernest said that Thomas and Audrey came to his house at least 2 times. They were there again the evening before Thomas's body was found. They argued with Caroline, but no one knows why.
My father said that they knew something about Mrs. Caroline Schlescher.
What you want here, Hotard?
What they knew, I do not know.
All right, make sure this is the last time, boy. Come on. Then you better watch your manners and don't talk that trash talk in my house.
Ernest says that he was away when Audrey and Thomas arrived, but he rushed home after Caroline phoned him. According to Ernest, Caroline had killed Thomas and Audrey. He claimed that he and a neighbor took Thomas's body to the site where it would later be found. And then they tied Audrey's body to an old Civil War cannon and dumped it into the swamp. But to Ernest Acosta's daughter, Marvel, the details just didn't add up.
I told him, I said, Daddy, how could you all have killed Mrs. Moat and Mr. Hotard? Because Mr. Hotard was killed in the car. He said, believe what you want to believe. I'm telling you what happened.
Ernest Acosta's daughter is not the only one who doubted the story. Deputy Wayne Norwood believes the real killer wasn't Caroline. It was Ernest Acosta.
I think that this was his way of telling what had happened, but not letting the kids know that he actually did the murder. My theory is that he had been watching them, and this particular time that he was watching them and probably got excited. I think it was a sex crime. Tire marks, according to the investigation, and he only had to take her about a mile to the house. So this would be why there was no tracks and a quick disappearance.
The scene of the crime has changed considerably. The actual spot where Thomas Hotard died is now 100 yards offshore. Why he was killed remains a mystery. And Audrey Moat, her fate remains hidden in the murky swamps surrounding Lake Pontchartrain.
I think it's always going to be in the back of my mind, in my heart, to want to know what happened. I hope that whatever happened, that it was quick, that she didn't suffer, that she wasn't put through a lot. But I need to know.
Next, the man charged with DUI manslaughter is on the run until our viewers turn him in. Davenport, Florida. When John Constable and his wife Virginia retired, they looked forward to visits with their only daughter, Linda, who lived 200 miles north of them in Jacksonville.
She's all excited, waiting.
One morning, they set out on a road trip to see her. That same morning, James White got behind the wheel of his pickup truck. White, a house painter and a handyman, had a long history of drunk driving arrests. John Constable was pronounced dead at the scene. His wife, Virginia, died an hour later from massive internal injuries.
The Florida Highway Patrol officer said that there had been an automobile accident and there was a fatality. I just remember asking which one. I never dreamed it would have been both of them.
White was transported to a nearby hospital. He had a fractured jaw, a broken ankle, and 3 broken ribs. Tests revealed that at the time of the crash, White's blood alcohol content was twice Florida's legal limit. White was charged with 2 counts of DUI manslaughter and 1 count of driving under the influence. But just 3 days after the crash, White, assisted by his relatives, left the hospital and disappeared. Update. Burlington, Vermont. James White has been arrested.
2 days after the Unsolved Mysteries broadcast, we got the phone call we were waiting on. James White was spotted by someone who had seen the program up in Burlington, Vermont. He was seen in a bar, and he was arrested and taken into custody up there.
I was very glad to get him off the road, to think that he's not going to kill someone else. I think it's a terrible thing what he did. He should have stayed there, and he should have faced the music.
James White was sentenced to 11 years in prison with 15 years probation. His license was permanently revoked, and he was required to pay Linda $12,000 to cover the burial costs of her parents. He has since been released from prison. What you're about to see is actual surveillance footage of a vicious masked killer. Authorities hope that you can help identify him. The crime scene is a convenience store in Brimfield, Ohio, called the Duke and the Duchess. Police responding to a silent alarm arrived just after 2 a.m. The man emerging from the store is an innocent bystander who arrived moments before police and found the store unattended. In a back room, police find the body of the store clerk, 23-year-old Brian Foguth. Brian was not even scheduled to work that night. He was a last-minute replacement for another employee. Brian Foguth's murder enraged the community. Finding his killer depends on a surveillance tape recorded during the crime. That's Brian behind the counter. At 1:58 a.m., he can be seen mopping the floor. 4 minutes later, at 2:02 a.m., a masked figure enters.
Don't make any sudden moves or I'll kill you, all right? I want you to go into the back room right now. Let's go. All right. Come on, move. Let's go.
They went into the back office. Brian, of course, went in with his hands raised. And the gunman behind him, and they spent approximately 60 to 61 seconds in that back room, out of camera range.
I want you to open up the safe.
We don't have a safe.
You have a safe? Can I have a safe?
Investigators can only guess what happened in the back room.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna go out to the cash register. You're gonna open it up real fast, and you're gonna empty it real fast. You screw up, I'll kill you.
2:03 a.m. The robber is crouched behind the counter. At gunpoint, Brian empties the cash register.
Hurry up, put it in the back, Let's go. Hurry up.
It's during this time that Brian triggers
Move it.
the silent alarm.
Pick it up. All right, that's good, let's go. Come on.
2:04 a.m. The customer pulls up to the gas pump, automatically activating a beeper inside the office. Police believe that to the gunman, it may have sounded like an alarm.
Where's the safe?
We don't have a safe.
Open.
It's
Did you set
just
the alarm off?
pumps. It's
You
just
set
the
the alarm
pumps.
off?
Brian Foguth was killed instantly by a single bullet just 3 minutes after the robber entered the store.
The customer that pulled up to get gas was actually present at the time that gun went off. But he did not hear anything, he did not see anything, standing in the front of the store at the gas pumps.
Police were on the scene within 3 minutes of Brian's alarm. 3 minutes, and they were still too late. Police believe the killer was a white male, age 18 to 30, 5 feet 9 inches in height. The suspect may have had head or facial injuries around that time as a result of his struggle with Brian. In addition, police observed what appears to be a hump on the robber's back. It may be a physical characteristic or perhaps a concealed ponytail. If you have any information, please contact us at unsolved.com.